All right, let's go. Let's talk about chapter 4. We got done with chapter 3 last time. Ooh, I look tired in this video today. Lord help me. Let me share screen and get it on this PowerPoint. We're going to talk about chapter 4. And I told the guys that are here that I think this is going to be relatively short and somewhat painless. And I'm going to hit you with the important parts again. Read the chapters. That's where you're really going to draw the things out. This is the high points. At this point, once you're in a 400 and this 473 class, you are expected to read your textbooks. Okay. Part of that is just expected. Part of that will be forced. As some of you have taken my other classes, you'll know when you go to take the test, you're going to have to dig in your book. And I want it to be that way. And I want the test to be hard. And if everybody makes a 60 on the test, then I'm going to make an adjustment and make you guys feel better. So don't stress too hard over that. But I also want to see somebody bust the curve and make 100 on it. You know what I'm saying? Like I'll help the others out if everybody else messes up. All right, let's talk about organizational behavior. So we're talking about managing organizational behavior. And this one right here, the culture and the climate of the work site influence the behavior and the decisions of managers and employees. So what do you guys think of when you think the culture of a work site or of your recreation therapy department? What does the culture mean?
What area it's in, what type of staff is there, what type of population you're working with.
I think it had also, that's correct. It also, and that affects, what were you gonna say?
Like the way things are handled, or like
Attitudes? Is that a good word of where you're?
How things go.
Yeah, it's kind of, to me, it's kind of like a consensus attitude of your organization. How are you gonna handle crisis situations, et cetera? That's something that will be covered under like culture. The climate is, are people, do your people feel like they can come to you? Do you feel like there's an open door policy? Do you feel stifled? Do you feel like you have freedom to do projects the way that you want to do them? Things like that. That is your, climate to me. So right here, here's what they have for their titles. And I'll tell you, I'm pretty sure this is test stuff right here. You need to know organizational culture and climate. The organizational culture, it drives organization and shapes interaction. It's, quote, the way we do business. And organizational climate, that has to do with emotions. It's the emotional expectations of the manager and staff. Do you have, like, for example, a formal climate or a relaxed climate? Different facilities. Okay, let's say you work in there's some recreation therapy departments that are in high dollar privatized facilities for elderly who just need like minimal assistance, something like that. And you know what they're gonna want? They're gonna want like some fancy schmancy things to do. They're gonna want a wine tasting, and they're gonna want, in a situation like that, you would have a more formal climate to your work space than you would at, say, NMRC, where we've got all kind of different levels of people with, intellectual disability. We're all on the same team, just trying to get through the day. It's, that was a relaxed climate in comparison to somewhere like that. Some cases you need to be more formal than you need to be others. And different organizations, and this comes from the top, different organizations promote different levels of formality. You need to be, it's like dress code, at different places. Some places are going to make you dress differently. more, some won't allow shorts, some won't allow, make you wear a tie every day to do something, different jobs. And I think that is something that just verbatim to me fits right in with formal versus relaxed. Think about your clothing, if nothing else. That sets a tone on whether how formal or relaxed you are. Now, general rule, professionals desire a climate that permits job satisfaction that meets their needs. That's kind of like a duh statement to me. We all want that. We want a climate that fits us, that's going to allow us a little bit of freedom to do what we want to do, which is going to give us job satisfaction and meet our needs. That's what this one's all about. Organizational change. As you know, not just organizations, but everything seems to be in a state of constant change these days to me. And organizations constantly change. Now, I've talked about this before, especially in the elderly. I noticed this, they're very resistant to change because they've done things the same way for so long. That's just the way it is. This is how we do it. Same thing happens with people who work in different facilities. The bottom line, change causes discomfort. Is it easier to keep doing what you're doing, or is it easier to make a change? Keep doing what you're comfortable doing. You've been doing it. So change causes discomfort. As a manager, your role in this situation is to help facilitate the change in the environment, the technology, and the people. You want to bring in the proper technology. You want to have an environment that's open to change, that looks at change as being positive. You want to promote the change that is coming, because usually when a change is happening, if you're a manager, unless you're implementing it, someone from above you has told you that this change needs to happen. So you don't really have a choice. So at that point, you got to sell it to the people who are under you. So that all starts with you presenting it in a positive manner. Okay. So you facilitate it through the environment, technology, and people. Something that to take note of is planned change follows a process much like the API that we've talked about. When there's gonna be a change that is, some changes happen like that, and you don't have time to plan them. You had let's say you're over an aquatics facility and you had a drowning. You've never had one before. I bet you're gonna have some changes, and it's gonna be like that. You don't have time to do API on it. But if you have a change that is coming that you need to work on, you can go through those same steps that we talked about. And I told y'all that it's universal regardless of where you end up and what you do. When you are planning anything that you're looking for a change at the end of it, you go through this process. You do the assessment to see why you need to change, how we need to change, then a plan to put it in place, implement the change, and then you evaluate to see how well your employees took to it, to see how well the change is working, to see how you can tweak what you're doing to make it be a little better. Make sense on that as far as using the API acronym. Something else I want to note to you guys, because y'all are in 473. I've mentioned it before. What's the letter I say that we could add at the end of it? Yeah, D. I talked with Isabella Scheffler. You guys remember her? Some of you will from class. You probably don't. You probably would know her face, not her name. She's in grad school in Tennessee for recreation therapy right now. And she said that all of her texts and stuff have D at the end. They've added it on to API. They went ahead and added documentation. So start thinking in terms of that for like down the road. She also said though, and this made me feel good, she said, I also want to say that what you're going over is really good because I already know everything they're trying to teach us. So I got a big old bruise on my back from patting after I talked, but no, seriously, it tells me that we're on the right track because this is something that we just built a couple of years ago and I'm still tweaking classes and trying to meet the needs of what you need to succeed when you get out of here. So, but that's just something to note. Add a D on API documentation. If you don't do it, it didn't happen. Otherwise, what we're doing is pretty good. Now, a problem that you run into is that people consider, who do we think about when change is happening? Ourselves. Everybody's going to think about themselves first in most cases, unless you're a very rare individual. So you're told that there's going to be a change at work and we're going to have to start doing different hours, or, you know, you're going to start having to work every other weekend. And that's something that you've never done before. People are going to get mad because whether that's beneficial for the facility or not, people think about the personal impact of the change before the agency impact. Is that normal? Is that natural? Is that human nature? Absolutely. Should that play a role? Yeah. And that's where you, as a facilitator, as a manager, have to show them, look, this isn't going to be that bad. By working that extra weekend day, you're going to get a day off during the week where you can actually run some errands and pay some bills that you couldn't do in the, I mean, feed them whatever you got to feed them to get them to buy in. In that manager role, you have to kind of get them to see positives, that because all they see is, man, this is going to mess me up. So you got to try to get them to buy into it, because that's, people consider personal impact ahead of agency impact. It, like, even though I see what you're saying and I know this is going to help the facility, it still makes me mad because it's an inconvenience to me. And that's just something that you're going to run into. So as a manager, when you're managing change, there's some things that you have to do. You have to identify the negative and the positive consequences of change. In most cases, when you have change, there is going to be both of those. You know, there's going to be some things that are going to be seen as being negative, you know, if nothing more than just, this is the way we were comfortable doing it. Now we're not, now we're uncomfortable, you know. To the positive consequences are, think once we learn this new system, think how much more efficient we're going to be with our paperwork. You know, something like that, that look at the negative and the positive consequences of the change. At that point, how you help to get your employees to buy in, you create that climate of trust where you help staff to deal with their concerns. By showing them that you care, by showing them that your door is open, by showing them that you're willing to discuss their concerns, and telling them you don't care about their concerns and they're going to do what you tell them to do. Just kidding. I'm seeing if y'all were awake. Nobody's really awake out there. That's probably not how you should do it. But you get that open door policy. You listen to them. You be empathetic to the people that work for you. And if they see that you actually care about their concerns and will talk to them about them, then that goes a long way in them buying into the change. So then, as a manager, you see what the overall feel is in the room at that point. Like, are people going along with this? Are people bucking? Are people mad? Are people, half of them are for it, half are against? Some seem like they're just ready to jump in. Some are hesitant. At that point, you need to decide, and you pace the rate of change. You got to say to yourself, how quickly can we actually feasibly get this change done with what we've got ahead of us, with this number of staff concerns that we have, with the number of negative consequences that we have to overcome. You know, how quickly can we actually do this? At that point, you build collaboration and coalitions and negotiate with employees to engage them. Now, that does not mean that you give in to everything that the employee says, because you probably won't be able to do that. But if you can do even the most minimal negotiation to show that you give a crap about their feelings and their concerns, that goes a long way in people buying into what you're asking them to do. So negotiate as much as you can, and you'll get a lot more buy-in from your employees as far as jumping on board. So there's a lot of different factors that influence performance. As we're talking about, we've been talking about a lot of change and things like that. So as a manager, you need to be aware that these factors influence employee performance. Obviously, and this is common sense, all this stuff, y'all. Attitude. Whose attitude? The employee attitude, the manager attitude. Both of them matter. Personality. Every employee is going to be different. Everybody in here is different. And I mean, I can look around this room there. Y'all are all different in your own way for sure. And that's a good thing. And that's a good thing in a workplace to have, because what you have by everybody being different, you got somebody who's strong in a certain section and weaker in another section. And that's where you collaborate. You stop, collaborate, and listen. Sorry. I didn't mean to do that. That's where you collaborate, work together, use everybody's strengths and make it work. Motivation, the amount of motivation that your employees have is key to how much they're going to work. As what motivates you as an employee? Money. Time off, money. What else?
You got a personal place to be in there, you have a right to be in there, not.
Rewards.
Yep, rewards, like just a pat on the back. Like I was saying at the city pool, they started doing lifeguards of the week. They probably felt a little better, but after they got their little award and got put on Facebook, you couldn't tell them nothing. Yeah. Perception. That has to do with how the employees look at something, and you can help to mold that as a manager, their perception, by how you hand it to them. We have to make this change. I know you guys are going to see this as being hard to do, but look, it's really not going to be that bad. We're going to work together. And once we get better, you're going to be glad that we did this. If you hand it to them in that way, you're still going to have some Debbie Downers and be like, no. That's just a fact. And you just have to move on and keep on going. But how you hand things to people and tell them that there's going to be changes or expectations that are going to be different plays a huge role in their perception of what's going on. Back to the one above, as a manager and motivation, different people you learn about your employees. And just like I said, I know all of you are different. You have to learn what motivates your people. It's like I use the coaching analogy. Some employees need you to kind of get on their butt sometimes to get them in gear. Some employees need you to tell them they did a fantastic job every time they tie their shoe the right way. They need that constant, good job, you're doing great. And that's motivating to them. And if they're motivated, they're going to work better. Their perception of everything that's going on is going to be better. Know that your employees have different learning styles, just like students in classrooms. Some people like When I was in school, if I wanted to learn something, you know what I had to do? I had to write it down. If I wrote something down, I was pretty much gonna remember it. That was my thing. Some people can listen to things. Some people can sit in here, sit in a class and not take a single note and remember everything somebody says. And when they get on the test or something, it just comes out. You don't need to write stuff down. Everybody has different learning styles and you have to learn what works for everybody. And like if you have training sessions, you have to include multiple, routes of getting the information. You need to give a handout. You need to show a video. You need to have something where they actively practice an activity or something. Then you're hitting different ways. That's 3 different ways people can learn. Now, hands-on to me, where you put your hands on something and do it, is overall the best way that most people learn. Even if you mess it up the first time, hands-on, you've done something, you're going to remember what you did and know how to fix it. Something else that influences employee performance is diversity. And that you're going to have that if you have a group of any size whatsoever. And that fits, we're not talking just demographics and things like that. We're just saying everybody's different. The diversity of thoughts, the diversity of ideas. If you're having a situation where you're trying to brainstorm to fix a problem, or how do we get more people to come to our recreation activities? If you have a diverse group, you're going to get a lot of different ideas, and they might be very different from each other. And that in itself is the definition of diverse. Group dynamics. I think we got a great little group in here. I think y'all are comfortable with each other. I think y'all would be free to, and we're going to find out because we're going to start working on some of this stuff soon in class and let y'all actually have the chance to interact and talk about what you're doing your project on and throw ideas at each other and things like that. And I think that that's a good thing. But good group dynamics are going to equate to positive results. Bad group dynamics are going to obviously downturn on your results. So you want good group dynamics because that's something that you can force. Not really. Is it something that you can kind of finesse and help as a good manager? Yes. You need to, it might take, you need to be able to put out fires. You need to be able to put out some of these employee disagreements that are going to happen. Man, you got to watch out for everything from just the smallest, so-and-so leaves their food out on their desk every day. And it makes somebody mad, like after a while they get, it's every day you start getting pissed off about something after a while. It's as small as that to so-and-so is messing with so-and-so's husband. You might want to call for reinforcements on that one, just saying. But I'm saying your group dynamics can go all over the place depending on what sort of craziness is going on. And you will have changing. That's, how I said it first, organizational change, everything changes. When you bring in a new employee, somebody leaves and you bring in a new one and say they're real outspoken, they think they know how everything needs to be done, even though they're the newest one there and they really don't know anything. What's that going to do to your group dynamic? You're going to have to deal with that because nobody's going to like Citizen X who just came in and doesn't know anything but says he does, and you will run into that. All right, there's different types of groups that you deal with. There's formal groups and there's informal groups. Now, formal groups are put together to accomplish organizational goals. They are put together on purpose, such as task forces, committees, You know, when I was at NMRC, when we had like big events coming up, they would put, or we had committees for like Relay for Life was a group that we would put together, and they would do things to help raise money for cancer research on campus. Several different, you know, they had a group of people who dealt with hiring personnel. That's kind of the norm. It's the same here. I got asked the other day to be on a hiring committee for something in gerontology. Why me? I don't know, but yeah. I was like, sure. That's just one more little thing I can check off and say I did, but you know, job security. Sign me up, whatever. But no, they ask us to be on different committees and things like that as much as we can. So I'm all for it. But I do have to go through a training first before I can participate in that. So that's something I'm going to look at when I leave this class today to see exactly what that training consists of. And then I'll give a final answer of whether or not I'm going to do it. But these task forces and committees, what you want is these groups accomplish what one person can't. Things like hiring personnel or planning super large events. You just can't do it yourself. You need a group that's working together that you can delegate, you know, with amongst the group. We're going to jump into the next side. In a group, a formal group like made to do a big event, it's going to automatically bust into some informal groups that evolve naturally just through social interactions to satisfy personal needs. Basically, you like some people better than you like others. Those are the people you're going to want to hang out with. Those are the ones you're going to want to talk to. Those are the ones that you're going to want to break off and do this task with while so-and-so goes and does this task. That's human nature. In a situation here, these informal groups, they're not necessarily getting a bunch of information from the top or from you as a manager. They're getting it through the grapevine. You know, that's sometimes good if what they're getting is appropriate as far as what they need to know. Sometimes when you start getting information through the grapevine, it gets diluted and maybe tainted a little bit. So the information needs to be right if they're going to start doing that. Now, where the two merge together and it makes sense here, the productivity of formal groups is improved by these informal groups. That's saying you have people who click together, work together well, brainstorm well, solve problems well, you know, attack certain tasks well. And you have other informal groups who do the same for the other things that need to be done. So you get this mixture of, you know, a formal group, which is filled with some informal groups. That being said, it has to be a formal group large enough to really be, if you got 3 people that are put in a formal group, you're not going to have very many informal groups there. Let's see, by math, I guess you could have 3 groups, one-on-one and one-on-one and one-on-one. You probably wouldn't do that, just saying. So when you are talking about these groups again, group development and dynamics, obviously the group maturity develops over time. And what we mean by maturity is how efficient they are, how well they work together. And it comes through stages. And have you guys all seen these things beneath there? Forming, storming, norming. You guys all heard that before? Okay. These are the stages. You might want to note these two. This seems kind of testable also, just saying. Forming, storming, norming, performing, reforming, and adjourning. That was, you know, that was a lot in a short time period. But those are the stages where you have the maturity of a group come through. Those are the stages. Then you get, when you talk about group and individual effectiveness, and this is for either one, either group or individual, you see that they're influenced by several factors and they're listed here. Group rank. Are you gonna have like a line in every group kinda? Or multiple usually? You got a couple people who wanna be the, yeah, they gonna, what is that, the A personality, is that what it is? Yeah, your alphas, you're gonna have a few of them. Whether it's for just strictly personality or whether it's like an ego thing or whatever the case may be, you're gonna have some of that. Every group is gonna have a degree of rank. Some people care more about this than others. You know, these alphas, they want to be at the top of the group rank. Some don't care. They just want to be part of the group. Some don't even want to be part of the group. They want to be way down at the bottom, you know, hiding behind the group somewhere. Group status. What is your role in the status? What is your status? What is your role? What are the group norms? Like, what's expected of everyone that's in the group? You know, now we're talking about a group that's been put together for a specific function. What are the norms? What's expected of everybody? How much effort is expected? Because what you'll see, if someone's not pulling their weight and you have a good mixture of formal and informal groups, some of these informal groups will let people who aren't pulling their weight know that they're noticing that. And it may come to you that they've noticed that, you know, whatever the case may be. Group size plays a role in effectiveness. Sometimes a group can be too small. Sometimes it can be so big that it's almost a distraction and it slows things down. You know, like think of a meeting where at the end you say, all right, any questions? And you got just a room full of folks and everybody wants to ask a question. That's going to slow you down, right? If you got a smaller group that's actually been involved, paying attention, they're not going to have many questions. You know, group size plays a role on this. And then the effectiveness comes along with cohesiveness of the group too. What's cohesiveness? Yep. How close they are, how the togetherness, how they mesh, how the group, you know, has come together. Are they cohesive? Are they pulling on the rope the same way or is somebody pulling the other way? You know, cohesiveness is key on that. So as far as being a manager, and we're just talking about groups here, effective groups share information and individuals perform efficiently and effectively because of effective sharing of information that's important and not oversharing of information that's not important. Good managers facilitate a positive work climate. Group members feel safe discussing concerns and critiquing new behaviors. Important. That's that kind of open door policy as a manager, which doesn't necessarily, I'm not talking about an actual door. That just means the people that work for you, under you, need to feel like they can come to you and feel safe to discuss concerns with you and not feel like you're going to punish them for that. Because they should, you know, they should be able to address concerns. Now, critiquing new behaviors, and I think there's a difference in discussing concerns and critiquing behaviors. To me, that's a little more negative. That's like I don't like this. But you're going to get some of that and you still have to, that's where you need to spend it in a positive way if you can. Try to get them to flip their thought process if possible. With managerial support, effective groups start to become teams, and that is our goal. Now, as a team, you always want to win, right? You want to reach the goal. You want to complete the mission. You want to, you know, teams are cohesive units that are pulling in the same direction. Okay, that's what you want your groups to be in the workplace. So if they're getting the proper managerial support, your groups will become effective to the point that they actually are more like teams, and that is exactly what you want. At that point, teams might actually be the primary work unit in the organization. Again, teams have common goals. Productivity, quality, safety, and individual performance is shown to improve once you reach this stage and you have good team setup. And since you are now a team, what are you now as the manager? No, give me an even better word. Coach. Now you the coach. You're the team leader too. So I'm gonna give you at least partial credit on that. But you know, once you have built fertilized your groups, and you've helped them to grow, and you've helped them to mesh, and you've helped them to blossom, and you've helped them to understand why things are going on. Now you've got a team, and then you assume the role of a coach. And we're done, and it is pretty early, right? Did I do all right? How about that? All right, y'all have a great rest of your day. I will see you on Tuesday. Again, we're knocking out chapters quick, and then we're gonna get one test in, and then we're gonna start doing some other stuff. But I want to get this first test under our belt. So chapter 5, next class, is what we will cover.